Ladies and gentlemen, the G-Man's G-Man.
What is it?
You better get down here.
Do you remember back to the days when I don't know how old you are, but when the trial was on?
I do.
Around the clock.
Yeah, when I was 12 years old. I remember vividly we were glued to the Watergate hearings.
And didn't it feel like such a betrayal?
You couldn't believe that it was happening. It just seemed cataclysmic. I think the other thing that I remember feeling, and I was a kid, but was the idea that there was no way that you could take down a president of the United States. It would never happen, and it almost didn't. I mean, that's why, this film, Mark Felt, it's really a reminder that if it wasn't for this one individual, they never would have gotten Nixon. Imagine if that had never happened and they'd gotten away with it. It's almost inconceivable. And look, we're going through it again today in Washington.
I think you kind of have to have faith that something will happen to right things. I don't know. I mean, that's...
Yeah, what this film really did for me, both working on it and now in retrospect when I saw it, and by the way, when we were making the film, it was during the presidential campaign, so we had no idea that, in fact, we thought it was an impossibility that Trump would become president. Yeah. But now that he is, and there is an FBI investigation into possible criminal activity, and he's trying to shut down that investigation and fired the head of the FBI and complaining about the prosecutor and attacking his attorney general and all of the things, that were very Nixonian. It's just so surreal to be living through, and it's a real test in the United States, of our government institutions. And, in a funny way, that's what Watergate was, and now it's happening again. So I hope,
a great example of checks and balances.
It is. It's all about checks and balances.
That's one man. And his group, his circle.
Yeah, but it really was felt. I mean, because the character I play didn't. I think that Peter Landesman, our wonderful writer-director, is subtly implying that Ed Miller, my character, and Charlie, Josh Lucas's character, that we knew, but we didn't know. He wasn't. It was all unspoken.
But we don't know if they knew.
No, we don't know.
How would we know?
We don't know, and neither of them have ever admitted having any idea.
Right.
So, Ed Miller's dead now, but
when you prepare for a role like this one, a real person who lived, who is not alive but has family and friends, do you feel that burden of responsibility?
To some degree, it depends. With this, people don't really know who Ed Miller was, so I did do a lot of reading as much as I could about him, and I found a series of lectures that he gave. About being an FBI and about his career, so that was incredibly helpful. So I read those, so it's more like getting a set of cliff notes about a person's life. I did not feel any, I looked at pictures of him and saw, the way I view it now that I'm more experienced is I kind of view it as like a tool that I have at my, that's available to me. I've played a lot of real life characters in my career. Yeah. And when I was younger, I found it very difficult because I did feel this tremendous responsibility to be like the person. And when I was younger, it really used to make me feel sort of had a tension in my work because I was self-conscious that am I being like them? So I've learned over the years to do as much research as I can, but ultimately I'm creating a fictional character, that has to live and breathe. And I'm serving a script, a dramatic story. If I'm just doing a biography, then you should just do a documentary of it. And it needs to stand alone as if it was made up. That's sort of my view. Even as a director of, I've directed films that were biographical stories, true stories. And you always have to say to yourself, this has to stand on its own as if nobody had ever even heard of it or it wasn't even real, as just a piece of fiction. So I sort of view acting as a real character. Obviously, if it's someone who's incredibly famous, that's a different set of challenges.
They hired you, they didn't hire the person.
That's true, yeah. I remember playing Neil Armstrong once in this HBO miniseries, From Earth to the Moon. And I remember feeling very, very big responsibility to be like Neil Armstrong. And it was hard. I was always aware, You know, and if I were, now that I'm 20 years older than that, I would kind of go, Neil was Neil, and I'm doing my version of this character.
Right.